Chapter 65-17. Gong Jun was a little disappointed. He'd been prepared to take advantage of this opportunity to make a big splash. Sure enough, this matter wasn't important to his boss at all. But that didn't matter. He just needed to take care of this shop. It would come in handy one day. Gong Jun, I'll leave this to you. Bailey Hongzhuang handed a Qingquan pouch to Gong Jun. What's this? Gong Jun took the Qingquan pouch in a daze. In fact, he'd been in a daze ever since his boss had agreed to let him follow him. Before coming here today, he'd been worried that he'd be rejected again. After all, this matter had already been dealt with. However, he'd been prepared to pester his boss to the bitter end. Now that he'd been accepted, he was a little confused. This situation was much simpler than he'd thought. Looking at the man's godlike face, Gong Jun couldn't help but sigh inwardly. No matter what, this was good news. Why are you in a daze? Bailey Hongzhuang saw Gong Jun staring at Di Beichen in a daze. She couldn't help but wave her hand in front of his face. Are you in a daze? You're not a girl. How can you be so entranced by Di Beichen? Di Beichen glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly. She really dared to say anything now. Gong Jun snapped out of his daze and smiled. I just can't believe this is all real. When he saw the contents of the Qingquan pouch, Gong Jun was pleasantly surprised. His face was full of disbelief. These are all for me to sell? Of course. Di Beichen replied. These things aren't very high grade, but they should be enough for ordinary cultivators in Xi'an City. Of course. Gong Jun's face was full of excitement. Normally, people only use first-grade immortal pills and first-grade immortal talismans. There were rank 1, rank 2 and rank 3 here. Guanhongtian's Wanbao Pavilion only sold these. Although we have less variety compared to them, I am confident that we will be able to defeat them. Boss madam, don't worry, I won't let you down. We believe in you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Previously, when she and Beichen were in the abandoned immortal forest, she had learned alchemy and rune techniques. Therefore she had kept many Tier 1 and Tier 2 alchemists. Originally they thought that they wouldn't need it for the time being. Now that Gong Jun's shop happened to need it, they might as well take it out. Boss, aren't you worried that I'll run away with the items? Gong Jun couldn't help but ask. With so many items, their value wasn't low. If you use people, don't doubt them. If you doubt them, don't use them. Di Beichen looked at Gong Jun. If you really run away, then I'll treat it as if I've misjudged you. As soon as Di Beichen finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that Gong Jun was standing there without saying anything. She was a little confused. With this guy's personality, it was impossible for him to be silent for so long. When she turned her eyes, she found that Gong Jun's eyes were red as he looked at Di Beichen, and she was immediately dumbfounded. Gong Jun, you don't tell me you're going to cry? Gong Jun blinked and said excitedly, Heavens, I'm so touched. I've been alone since I came to the realm of chaotic immortal. I don't have any friends. Now that I have a boss and he trusts me so much, how can I not be touched? Wow, the heavens really have eyes. Chapter 65-18. After Gong Jun received the immortal pills and immortal talismans, he busied himself with managing the store. In his own words, he would definitely use the store's results to prove his ability and let everyone wait for his results. Regarding this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were not worried. They believed that Gong Jun had the ability to do so. Moreover, even if the business did not do well, it would not be a big deal. Di Beichen, I've studied this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. Coincidentally, Gong Jun also sent over the other medicinal ingredients that I needed. I plan to refine it into an elixir. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine in her hand. This thing's effects should be very good, which was why Guanhongtian treasured it so much. However, although this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine's medicinal effects are very good, if too many elixirs are refined, the effects will be greatly reduced. I've thought about it, and in order to maximize the effects of this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine, I can only refine 3 elixirs at most. Maintaining the medicinal effects is the most important. Di Beichen nodded. If they ignored the medicinal effects for the sake of quantity, it would be a waste of this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. Bailey Hongzhuang sat down on Di Beichen's lap and wrapped her arms around the man's slender neck with a slight smile on her lips. The man who was originally abstinent suddenly became charming and gentle. He reached out and clasped the woman's head and kissed her. The woman's small face flushed red. I'm talking business with you. Are you sure you're using this posture to talk business with me? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. teasing her with a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little guilty. It seemed that she had sat on his lap first. It's broad daylight and the world is clear. I only sat down because there were no chairs nearby. With that, she prepared to stand up. She could not possibly say that she had seduced him, right? Before she could stand up, Di Beichen's big hand pulled her back again. All right, I won't tease you anymore. It's because my wife is too delicious that it's easy for your husband to misunderstand. How about that? Seeing the man speak so seriously, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that something was wrong. Was it really okay for this guy to ask this question so seriously? I'm thinking that Gong Jun played a huge role in obtaining this 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. After I refine the pills, I will give one of them to him. What do you think? She wasn't a greedy person. Originally, they didn't even know that Guan Hongtian had a 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. If it weren't for Gong Jun's help, they naturally wouldn't have been able to obtain it. It's fine as long as my wife makes the decision. Di Beichen smiled faintly. After so many years, Hongzhuang's temperament had not changed at all. However, this was what made Hongzhuang so cute. Then I'll go refine the pills? Bailey Hongzhuang quickly stood up and ran into the room like a wisp of smoke. Ever since he didn't train with others, Beichen's state had changed. After Gong Jun put the pills and talismans up for sale in the shop, the number of customers in the shop didn't increase. Shopkeeper, we didn't have anything to sell before. Since we have something now, should we advertise it? The attendant's eyes sparkled with excitement. His shopkeeper had always been good and had spent a lot of effort to defeat the Wanbao Pavilion. It was just that they had too few things in their shop. This was what made them feel the most helpless. Chapter 65-19. No need. Gong Jun smiled faintly and waved his hand. Although we don't have as many customers as the Wanbao Pavilion, we still have a lot of customers. If we deliberately publicize or organize activities, the Wanbao Pavilion will definitely fight us to the death with their hatred for us. Currently, we can't compete with them in terms of financial resources. This method is not beneficial to us. Hearing Gong Jun's words, the attendant suddenly understood. Originally, he was worried that the shopkeeper would not think of a way. Now he understood that the shopkeeper had already thought through all of this. So, find a few people and spread the news. Say that our shop has a new batch of high-quality goods at a reasonable price. Gong Jun chuckled. He knew very well how quickly this kind of rumor spread. It wouldn't take long for everyone to know. Be smart when you do this. Don't let others find out. The attendant stared blankly at Gong Jun. At this moment he finally understood the shopkeeper's plan. Come to think of it, this should be the most cost-effective method, right? For a moment, he even wondered if the shopkeeper had said so much before because he could not bear to spend money. After successfully refining the pills, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that Gong Jun had not come for a few days. She was a little surprised. With this guy's personality, it was not his usual style for him to endure for so long without appearing. Di Beichen, should we go to Gong Jun's shop to take a look? No matter what, they were still business partners. It was indeed very unprofessional of him not to visit for so many days. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's curious little eyes, Di Beichen smiled faintly. Okay. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also came over immediately. It was rare for them to go out, so they definitely would not miss it. As the two of them arrived at Gong Jun's shop, the scene in front of them was beyond their expectations. The business of the Pavilion of 1,000 Treasures was dull and there was barely a single customer. On the other hand, Gong Jun's Pavilion of Immortal Treasures was crowded with people coming and going. It was obvious that business was booming. Am I seeing things? Xiao He was dumbfounded. According to the situation of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion and the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, the situation should be reversed. However, when it rubbed its eyes, the scene in front of it remained the same. The last time we came, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion didn't have much strength. How did it change so much in just a few days? Xiao Bai was also in disbelief. Wasn't this change too fast? I got it. Xiao He's eyes lit up. It must be because the products made by the two masters are too good. That's why there are so many customers. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Both of them were surprised. It seems that we've underestimated Gong Jun's business acumen, Di Beichen said in a low voice. The products that they brought out were indeed good, but the Pavilion of 1,000 Treasures definitely had many good treasures as well. In such a short time, Gong Jun was able to bring the entire shop back to life. After all, he was capable. I didn't expect that the little brother who suddenly came to find me would be so capable. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. For them this was a good thing. Dear guests, please come in. An attendant smiled when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He and welcomed them in. Chapter 65:20. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the waiter's polite attitude and nodded in her heart. In terms of attitude, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion was indeed much better than the Wanbao Pavilion. Not only that, she noticed that the layout inside was also simple and clear. The lighting was very bright, and the shelves looked expensive, but there were no extra decorations. Because of this, the entire Immortal Treasure Pavilion seemed more spacious. There were so many people gathered here, but it didn't seem crowded at all. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen didn't look like they were here to buy anything, and even looked around and commented from time to time, the waiter didn't have any dissatisfaction. He just asked the two of them to look around and then went to greet the other customers. His attitude didn't make anyone unhappy at all. The Wanbao Pavilion really chose the wrong shopkeeper. If he had chosen Gong Jun, the business of the Wanbao Pavilion would definitely be much better now. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. She began to believe that what Gong Jun said earlier was true. This guy. Perhaps he really did use his wealth to increase his cultivation level. Just as the two of them were talking, a voice full of surprise suddenly sounded. "Boss, you're here?" Gong Jun's round figure was as agile as a fish in this crowded shop. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of the two of them. At this moment, his face full of meat was filled with an excited smile. If one looked closely, it was inexplicably cute. "Boss, madam, are you satisfied with the shop situation? I originally planned to invite you to take a look in a few days, but I didn't expect you to take the initiative to come. I knew that you must be thinking about me in your hearts. I'm really touched." Noticing that Gong Jun's eyes were slightly red because he was touched, Di Beichen couldn't help but say, "Stop." Gong Jun's expression immediately froze, and he forcibly suppressed it under Di Beichen's gaze. Di Beichen rubbed his eyebrows helplessly. This little brother that appeared out of nowhere was not only good at pestering people, but also had a big problem. He was too emotional. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. Gong Jun was really too interesting. On the path of cultivation, she had seen all kinds of cold, arrogant, and despotic cultivators, but a person as emotional as Gong Jun was really rare. This guy's emotions came and went quickly. In the blink of an eye, he had returned to normal and pulled the two of them to the side. "Boss, madam, you don't know how good our Immortal Treasure Pavilion's business has been these past 2 days. Guan Hongtian was almost angered to death by me. However, no matter how angry he is, it's useless. After all, his things aren't as good as ours." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. "You mean that the things sold in the store are actually better than those sold in the Wanbao Pavilion?" They were all immortal elixirs, so logically speaking there shouldn't be any difference. Most importantly, when she came in, she had already taken note of the prices of some elixirs. If she remembered correctly, there wasn't much difference between the prices of these elixirs and those sold in the Wanbao Pavilion. Under such circumstances, it was really surprising that they could still hold the advantage. Chapter 65:21. When the news first came out, many people thought that I was the one who hired them. Although it wasn't good news, some people didn't believe it, so they came to the store to buy elixirs. At first, I didn't take it to heart and even thought that it might be a trap set up by Guan Hongtian to make everyone hate the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. I even thought of a countermeasure, but I didn't expect that it wasn't Guan Hongtian's doing at all. Gradually, many people said that our Immortal Spirit Pills were better than the Immortal Spirit Pills of the Thousand Treasures Pavilion. As more and more people said this, the rumors spread and became more and more real. For this reason, I did some research and found that the Immortal Spirit Pills of the Madam were indeed better. Gong Jun's eyes shone with excitement and worship. "Madam, your alchemy skills are really amazing. The same medicinal ingredients can have such an effect in your hands. It's really amazing." Not only that, after everyone found out that the Immortal Spirit Pills were better, some people turned their attention to the Immortal Talismans, wanting to know if there was anything special about them. Who would have thought that they guessed right? The Immortal Talismans were better than the ordinary ones. As a result, our Immortal Treasure Pavilion's business became better and better. Gong Jun's eyes narrowed into slits in ecstasy. "Boss, you're really amazing. How did you do it? I've been in Xi'an City for so long, but I've never encountered such a thing." Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Gong Jun's words and was secretly puzzled. She thought that Gong Jun might be taking the opportunity to flatter them, but she vaguely heard some customers saying the same thing. It was because the price was slightly lower than the Thousand Treasures Pavilions and the medicinal effects were better that it attracted so many cultivators. "Is that true?" Di Beichen asked slowly. Yes. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. I'm telling the truth. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen felt even more emotional. Since they came to the immortal realm, they had been learning from their master and had never seen other people's immortal spirit pills and immortal talismans, so they were completely unaware of such a thing. Since this matter was true, it also proved how strong his master was. Because of their attainments in alchemy and talisman techniques, their two disciples were able to perform so well. Boss, I've recorded all the money we earned recently. I plan to give it to you in 2 days, but since you're here today, I'll give it to you first. Gong Jun smiled and led the two of them towards the inner courtyard. Gong Jun, that's not why we're here today. I know, boss and madam, you must have wanted to see how this store is. Immortal spirit, immortal, 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 immortal. Now from the outside, it doesn't look worse than the Thousand Treasures Pavilion. Chapter 65-22. How can that be? Gong Jun hurriedly waved his hand. His usually smiling face revealed a rare serious expression. Boss, it's already very good that you're willing to let me sell the immortal pills and talismans. As for the renovation of the shop, that's part of my job. I'm the boss. Di Beichen's cold voice sounded, but it immediately silenced the noisy Gong Jun. The meaning of this sentence was very simple. I'm the boss and I have the final say. Under these circumstances, could Gong Jun still refute? Of course not. Unless he didn't want to be the boss anymore. That was absolutely impossible. Looking at Gong Jun, who was still alive and kicking just a second ago, and the next second he had become resigned to his fate, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt very funny. This Gong Jun seemed to have set his mind on Di Beichen. Normally, when would there be such a person who was so dead set on meeting? However, Gong Jun was very sincere. So sincere that no one could doubt him. Alright, it's time to talk about business. Weren't we talking about business just now? Gong Jun was slightly startled. Anything related to money was a big deal. As he spoke, Gong Jun couldn't help but say, Boss, I don't want to say this, but you don't value money too much. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. How can you just casually give me money? This kind of thinking is absolutely unacceptable. As the saying goes, every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. You should keep it for yourself or your wife. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twitched slightly. This guy's brain is indeed wired differently from normal people. So now that I've given him the money, he's still not satisfied? Will you cheat me of my money? Di Beichen slowly said. Of course not. Gong Jun patted his chest and said seriously, since I've recognized you as my boss, I naturally won't cheat you. Isn't that enough? Di Beichen asked. Perhaps they had to be careful of other people, but for some reason he felt that Gong Jun was a trustworthy person. This kind of trust came a little inexplicable. Gong Jun paused for a moment before he understood. His eyes were filled with gratitude. Boss, it turns out that you trust me so much. Stop. Di Beichen's voice rang out again. He was obviously a man, but his emotions were so rich that it made people want to beat him up. Gong Jun curled his lips and stopped himself from being touched. He said, Boss, don't worry. I will definitely make this money more and more. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang then handed the pill to Gong Jun. Gong Jun, this is for you? What is this? You want me to sell a new immortal spirit pill that Madame refined? No, this is for you to consume. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Didn't you help us snatch the 10,000-year purple blood vine last time? I refined it into pills. There are exactly 3 of them. This one is for you. Gong Jun looked at the porcelain bottle in his hand. His expression froze for a moment and he fell silent. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. This guy's personality was so strange. He couldn't be unhappy that she gave him a pill, right? Just like when Di Beichen gave him money just now, he was unhappy? Ahem, Bailey Hongzhuang gave Di Beichen a look, indicating whether they should leave first. At this moment, Gong Jun grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's arm emotionally. His eyes were as bright as stars. Madam, I'm really touched. Chapter 65-23. Di Beichen's gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang's arm, which was being grabbed by Gong Jun. His eyes narrowed slightly and a light quietly flashed across them. Gong Jun was busy being moved when he suddenly felt the surrounding temperature drop. He wondered what was going on, and then noticed his boss's gaze. Almost immediately, Gong Jun hurriedly let go of his hand. Boss. I was just a little excited. Di Beichen didn't say anything. He just looked at Gong Jun indifferently, but the latter felt a wave of pressure. Well, now he understood how much boss valued Madam. Since we've already given the pills, let's go back. Di Beichen grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. He didn't know if it was intentional or not, but his hand just happened to be where Gong Jun was grabbing previously. Gong Jun was a shrewd person, and naturally knew that his actions just now had caused Boss's dissatisfaction. How could he let Boss leave just like that? Boss, I heard that the City Lord Mansion is about to hold a monster slaying competition. Would you be interested? Hearing this, Di Beichen's footsteps paused slightly, and a trace of interest appeared in his handsome eyes. Monster slaying competition? That's right. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly and walked to Di Beichen's side. This event has already been circulated, but it hasn't officially started yet. It said that it will officially start in half a month, and now it's the registration stage. According to past experience, the rewards given by the City Lord Mansion should be very rich, so there will be many cultivators signing up for the monster slaying competition every time. Does the demon in the monster slaying competition refer to demon beasts? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little curious. Usually, demon beasts that had reached this level of cultivation could already transform into humans. If they attacked, wouldn't it feel like killing people? Moreover, once these demon beasts transformed into human form and barged into them, who would be able to distinguish them? That's not it. Gong Jun smiled and shook his head. It's a demon, not a demon beast. Monster? It seems that around 10 years ago, some monsters began to appear in the outskirts of some cities. Some of these monsters are demonic beasts and some are plants. They look ordinary and mediocre. If you get too close to them, you might lose your life. Back then, when these monsters first appeared, they caused a huge commotion. Because no one had come into contact with these monsters, they didn't know what they were. After more than 10 years, everyone gradually gained some experience with this monster. In short, many of these monsters are black, and many of them are proficient in the power of darkness. Although the power of darkness has always been disliked in the immortal realms, in fact, everyone knows very well that the power of darkness is very strong. Ordinary people are simply no match for it. Gong Jun lowered his voice, his eyes filled with disdain. Ever since these monsters appeared, on one hand, everyone was shocked by the power of darkness. On the other hand, they were even more ostracized by the power of darkness. Boss, if you don't know much about these monsters, I think you should take advantage of this time to learn more about them. Otherwise, when the time comes to register, you will definitely be at a disadvantage if you don't understand the habits of these monsters at all. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He was indeed somewhat interested in these monsters. Chapter 65-24. Gong Jun, from the looks of it, you seem to know a lot about these monsters. Have you participated in this monster slaughtering competition before? Gong Jun shook his head. I haven't participated in it. You know that what I'm most interested in is doing business. I don't do things like brandishing weapons. Look at my body. You know, I can't starve myself to thin just to participate in a competition. Looking at Gong Jun's face full of love for the meat on his body, Bailey Hongzhuang already didn't know what words to use to express her feelings. If Xiao Xuanzi also knew Gong Jun, he probably wouldn't have been so serious about losing weight. The reason why I know about this is because the monster slaughtering competition is about to start, so everyone wants to buy some insurance during this period of time. The shop's business is so good, it has a lot to do with the monster slaughtering competition. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. Indeed, whenever they want to go out to gain experience, almost everyone will prepare all the things they may need. Once he needed them, these things might be able to save his life. Boss, I heard that Yun Xiaoman and Guan Yi are also going to participate. Moreover, Guan Hongtian has been trying his best to prepare things for Guan Yi so that he can perform well in the monster slaughtering competition. Gong Jun's eyes revealed a trace of gloomy light. That little bastard originally wasn't from Shiyun City, but with his strength, the success rate of participating in Shiyun City's competition will be higher, so he came here now? This Guan Hongtian really takes care of his nephew? Gong Jun, Bailey Hongzhuang secretly sighed. Even a biological father and son may not be able to do this, let alone an uncle. Hee, Gong Jun chuckled, lowered his voice and said, Madam, there's something you don't know. Is there some inside story? As the saying goes, there is no hatred in the world for no reason, and there is no love for no reason. Guan Hongtian was definitely a snobbish person. He was extremely selfish. If it was only his nephew, why would he sacrifice so much? You don't know how much he had to pay for the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine. The lives of others are nothing in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. After hearing what Gong Jun said, she felt that things were even more confusing. Madam, haven't you noticed that Guan Yi and Guan Hongtian are somewhat similar? My nephew resembles my uncle, so it's not strange for them to be similar. Gong Jun smiled and shook his head. No, they're too alike. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and immediately understood. So, Guan Yi is Guan Hongtian's son? Bailey Hongzhuang was in disbelief. Although she had heard of such a thing, she still found it hard to accept. Isn't that so? Gong Jun chuckled. At this time, Di Beichen's voice sounded. You already knew about their relationship, so you had the confidence to snatch the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine, right? Boss, you really have sharp eyes. I can't hide anything from you. Gong Jun admitted it frankly. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. This guy was probably going to make people die without paying for it. So you're not going to participate this time? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Chapter 65-25. After leaving the Immortal Treasure Pavilion, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked toward the City Lord's mansion. They came to the realm of Chaotic Immortal to gain experience. Since there was such a good opportunity, they naturally wouldn't miss it. I'm curious about these monsters. I wonder what they look like. There was a hint of curiosity on her delicate face as her bright eyes darted around. Although the realm of Chaotic Immortal was not as big as the Immortal Realm, there were many things that they had never seen before. It will start in half a month. You will know then. Di Beichen smiled faintly. We can buy a book when we go back later. Now that the monster slaying competition is near, there should be many books about this. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I've already seen many books on the way here. After all, we are not the only ones who have just come to the realm of Chaotic Immortal. The City Lord's mansion was located in the center of Shiyun City. The square courtyard was particularly eye-catching in the bustling streets. Although Shiyun City was not considered a large city in the realm of Chaotic Immortal, it was the entrance to the abandoned Immortal Forest. The flow of people was very shocking. Therefore, Shiyun City was one of the top cities among the many cities. The City Lord's mansion was majestic. 2 stone lions stood on either side of it, exuding boundless majesty. 2 groups of guards stood on either side of it in an orderly manner. Their cold faces and sharp gazes revealed the City Lord's mansion's confidence. No one dared to act rashly. At this moment, a few long tables were placed together in front of the City Lord's mansion's main gate. The tables were covered with red cloth. Many people had already formed a long line. Their names were recorded one by one. Obviously, everyone was here to sign up for the monster slaying competition. The scale of this monster slaying competition is indeed shocking. I heard that today is the 3rd day of registration. There are still so many people. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the long line and lined up behind Di Beichen. Other than cultivators who are cultivating in seclusion, most of the people who are free must have come to sign up. Di Beichen was also paying attention to the people who were registering. Among them there were very young people and there were also some elders. Unlike the upper realms where the older a cultivator was, the more people feared them, the situation in the realm of chaos was the complete opposite. The younger a cultivator was, the more people feared them. This was because almost all of the cultivators here were at the Radiant Sun realm. Naturally, the younger the cultivator, the more talented and terrifying their potential would be. Therefore, when some young faces appeared, everyone would often pay more attention to them. If Xiren and the others knew about this, they would definitely come to sign up as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. They had recently separated to train and hadn't seen each other for the past few days. However, through this demon-slaying competition, it was very likely that they would meet again. They won't miss such an opportunity, Di Beichen said with a faint smile. Just as the 2 of them were lining up to register, a series of congratulatory voices suddenly came from behind. Young Master Guan, you're here to sign up too? For this kind of thing you only need to send someone to sign up. Why would you need to come here personally? I heard that young Master Guan is cultivating in seclusion. I'm sure you'll do well in the monster slaying competition. Compliments were heard one after another, attracting everyone's attention. Chapter 65-26. In the blink of an eye, Bailey Hongzhuang saw a familiar figure and couldn't help but sneer. It seemed that because Guan Yi had Guan Hongtian as his uncle, his reputation in Shiyun City was quite resounding. Guan Yi was smiling as he accepted everyone's congratulations. He knew all too well that these people were only doing this to establish a relationship with his uncle. How precious were the treasures in Wanbao Pavilion. Even if they could get a discount, it would be a great advantage for them. Although he had suffered a loss a few days ago, it didn't affect him for long. After all, he was still doing well in Xi'an City. However, just as he was feeling extremely happy, he suddenly noticed the two proud figures in front of him and the smile on his face stiffened. How could he be so unlucky? Originally, he wanted to avoid these two guys, so he didn't sign up on the first day. Instead, he deliberately waited for 2 days. Who would have thought that these two fellows would coincidentally come to register today as well? Guanyi, what's wrong with you? Why did your expression suddenly become so ugly? Beside Guanyi, a young man revealed a puzzled expression. Brother Bai, the person who poisoned us earlier was that woman in front. Yun Xiaoman's eyes were filled with viciousness. Thinking of how arrogant Bailey Hongzhuang was in front of her, she couldn't swallow this anger. However, she also knew very well that she didn't have the ability to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang and could only swallow this anger. Hearing Yun Xiaoman's words, Bai Luchuan also turned his gaze. Even if Yun Xiaoman didn't point it out clearly, he still saw the dazzling white figure at a glance. The willow-like woman was like a fairy in a painting. She was clearly standing in the crowd, but it was as if she was standing outside the mortal world, giving off an ethereal aura. Usually he boasted that he had seen countless women, but compared to the woman in front of him, he understood what a real beauty was. Previously, when he heard Guanyi talk about it, he didn't take it to heart. He only felt that his description was too exaggerated. Now, it seemed that he wasn't exaggerating at all. On the contrary, he didn't describe her true beauty. However, he also understood that this woman was a rose with thorns. Her method of poisoning was simply appalling. So it's the two of them. Bai Luchuan chuckled. Watch. I'll help you vent your anger in a while. As soon as these words came out, a trace of joy appeared on Yun Xiaoman's face. Big brother Bai, is what you said true? Of course it's true. How could I lie to you? Bai Luchuan wore a smug look. Have you forgotten my relationship with City Lord Manor? Yun Xiaoman's eyes lit up. Brother Bai, you are the most capable. I believe that you will definitely be able to avenge me and Brother Yi. Don't worry. Bai Luchuan slowly summoned a person and whispered a few words into his ear. The person nodded and walked towards the person who was recording the name cards. After the man passed on his message, the person who recorded the name cards quietly glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen before nodding his head. Next, we can wait to watch a good show. Bai Luchuan looked at the other party's expression and knew that his matter was done. The smile on his face also had a hint of pride. Luchuan, these two people are very difficult to deal with. If they know that we did this, it's inevitable that they will cause trouble again. Chapter 65-27. Guanyi, didn't you suffer a loss last time? Why have you become so timid now? Bai Luchuan looked at Guanyi with some disdain. You're a man after all. As long as you teach them a lesson, will they dare to find trouble with you in the future? Brother Bai is right. Last time she deliberately tricked us. Maybe she really thinks we're easy to bully. If we teach them a lesson this time, not only can we vent our anger, but we can also make them fear us, Yun Xiaoman also said. Hearing this, Guanyi nodded. He also felt very aggrieved about what happened that day. If it could be resolved, it would undoubtedly be best. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen only glanced at Guanyi before retracting their gazes. The previous matter had been resolved. Now they were just strangers. Gradually, it was finally two people's turn. Name. The man's cold voice sounded. Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang. Di Beichen replied. The conditions for registration were very simple. They only needed to write down their names and receive an identity card. This identity card would have their own information. It was also very simple to make. It was similar to the upper realm. I've noted it down. You may leave. The man waved his hand and let the two of them leave with a look of disdain. Seeing this, Di Beichen frowned slightly. You haven't given us the identity cards yet? Your conditions don't pass. You can't register, the man said coldly. Why don't our conditions pass? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She clearly noticed that the cultivators in front only reported their names and didn't have any requirements at all. However, when it was their turn, they suddenly said that their conditions didn't pass. Wasn't this too strange? Do we, the City Lord's mansion, have to explain our actions to you? If I say you don't pass, then you don't pass. The sudden commotion immediately attracted everyone's attention. Some of the people who had participated in the demon slaying competition more than once naturally understood that the man's words were just a cover. It couldn't even be considered an excuse. It was obvious that he was deliberately making things difficult for them. They must have offended someone, so they were targeted, right? That's someone from the city lord's mansion. It seems these two newcomers have quite the guts. After offending the city lord's mansion, they actually dared to sign up for the monster slaying competition organized by the city lord's mansion. Isn't this a provocation? Lower your voice. There are always people who seek death. Let's just watch the show. Bailey Hongzhuang originally thought that the other party was deliberately making things difficult for her. Now that she heard the comments of the crowd, she was even more certain that her judgment was not wrong. It was just that, they had only been in Shiyun City for a few short days, and they had not even met anyone from the city lord's mansion, so how could they offend them? If I say you can't pass, then you can't pass. Why do you have so many questions? Are you leaving or not? The man's expression turned cold. If you don't leave, then I can only send people to chase you away. As the man's voice fell, the guards of the city lord's mansion immediately took a step forward, as if they were ready to take action at any time. Master, these guys are too much. Xiao Hei's eyes burned with a raging fury. They were simply looking down on people with dog eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the city lord's mansion's forces, then her gaze fell on Yun Xiaoman. Coincidentally, she saw a flash of pleasure in the latter's eyes. Chapter 65-28. Let's go. There's no point in staying here. A man couldn't help but remind them when he saw the situation. If we offend the city lord, we'll be in trouble. Di Beichen turned to look at the man beside him. The man didn't dislike them for wasting time. Instead, he kindly reminded them, which was a little surprising. You guys must have offended Bai Luchuan, right? The man lowered his voice. Bai Luchuan? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. This was the first time she had heard of this name. Here. It's the person standing beside Guan Yi. He's the city lord Bai's nephew. If you really want to participate, why don't you find someone to buy a nameless participation token? If you continue to stay here, be careful not to get into trouble. Thank you, brother. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan weren't sure what was going on. At this moment, the two of them completely understood. So, this matter was really caused by Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman. They thought that the previous matter would be over, but now it seemed that the other party didn't want to let it go. Di Beichen, let's go back first. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. She held Di Beichen's arm and slowly walked to the back. However, the smile didn't reach her eyes. Her ink-like eyes were filled with a cold light. Di Beichen's expression was as cold as ice. He had already made up his mind. When the demon-slaying competition began, these guys would be their hunting targets. I thought they would cause some trouble. I didn't expect them to leave with their tails between their legs. How boring. Bai Luchuan spread out his hands with a dull expression. Yun Xiaoman was also a little disappointed. She had always hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Luchuan would cause trouble in public. The city lord's mansion would definitely not allow anyone to cause trouble here. When the time came, the two of them would definitely be at a disadvantage. They might even be punished on the spot. She never thought that the two of them would leave just like that. This made her extremely depressed. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Shiwen slowly left, their footsteps paused for a moment when they passed by Guan Yi and the other two, leaving behind a meaningful look. Guan Yi's heart trembled when he felt their gazes. A thought flashed through his mind. Could it be that they had already seen through everything? Brother Yi, why are you in a daze? Yun Xiaoman waved her hand in front of Guan Yi, her face showing a trace of concern. Nothing. Guan Yi shook his head. I just think they might have seen through it. You're thinking too much. If he really saw through it, why would he leave without saying anything? Bai Luchuan didn't take it to heart at all. In my opinion, they know their limits. They know that it's impossible for them to fight City Lord Manor, so they tactfully left. Master, aren't we letting them off too easily if we just leave like this? Xiao Hei could not help but voice out. This situation was really too depressing. Chip. A cold light flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. When the demon-slaying competition begins, this grudge will definitely be avenged. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years is not too late. Di Beichen's calm face did not show any anger. However, with Bailey Hongzhuang's understanding of him, just from that slight expression, she already knew that he was angry. Chapter 65-29. Boss, you didn't register successfully? When Gong Jun heard that they didn't get an identity card, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Why? The City Lord's mansion has never stopped people from registering. It's all thanks to the other side. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the myriad treasure pavilion opposite them and said meaningfully. Gong Jun turned his gaze. With one look he understood what was going on. Although Guan Hongtian has some ability in Xi'an City, his relationship with the City Lord's mansion isn't very close. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have the ability to make the City Lord's mansion do such a thing. Bai Luchuan, do you know this person? Di Beichen asked slowly. Bai Luchuan? Gong Jun was stunned when he heard the name. A few years quickly flashed through his mind and he understood in the blink of an eye. I understand. I heard that Guan Yi has been quite close to Bai Luchuan recently. This matter must have been done by Bai Luchuan. Bai Luchuan is the City Lord's nephew. He is usually taken care of by the City Lord. Furthermore, the City Lord's son, Bai Qingli, grew up with him as if they were biological brothers. Others definitely wouldn't be able to do this, but Bai Luchuan can. I didn't expect this fellow to stand up for Guan Yi. A trace of vexation appeared in Gong Jun's eyes. What a blunder. Di Beichen's gaze swept across Gong Jun's face. What are you hiding from us? No. Gong Jun hurriedly waved his hand in denial. His slightly evasive gaze revealed a trace of guilt. I'll give you a chance. Gong Jun smiled embarrassedly. I actually knew that Guan Yi and the others were going to register today, so I thought that boss would also go today. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. She had been a little puzzled previously. Logically speaking, Gong Jun should have told them about such an important matter as the demon-slaying competition early on. However, he had dragged it out until the third day before telling them. It really didn't match his character. So, this was the crux of the problem. Then you're amazing. We haven't even gotten our identity cards yet. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands, a helpless look on her face. Madam, don't be angry. I didn't think of that either. Gong Jun straightened his expression and said, this is actually not a bad thing. If not for today's matter, we wouldn't have known that Guan Yi and Bai Liuchuan's relationship was so good. Now that I know, I can be a little more vigilant during the demon-slaying competition to avoid being cheated by them, right? Seeing that Gong Jun had found a perfect excuse for the trouble he had caused, Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. This guy really had a glib tongue. He could even make a dead person come back to life. However, on this point she did indeed have the same thoughts. Know yourself and know your enemy and you will never be defeated. If they had known about this situation earlier, they could have been more vigilant. If they really made a move during the demon-slaying competition, they would have to be wary of the people from the City Lord's mansion. Otherwise, if things got out of hand, they would probably be chased down again. Although, they had experienced quite a lot of such things. Gong Jun, I heard that there are other ways to obtain an identity card other than this method. Is that true? Di Beichen's handsome eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. They couldn't miss the demon-slaying competition no matter what. Chapter 65-30. Boss, how did you know? Gong Jun was somewhat surprised as he nodded and said, indeed, it's possible. However, such an identity card doesn't have a name, only a number. Apart from this, are there any other effects? No. Apart from not being famous, everything else is the same. If you get into the top 10, you will also be rewarded. However, usually, everyone will collect their own identity cards. Apart from some cultivators who didn't make it in time to register, they will use such identity cards. In the previous few demon-slaying competitions, these identity cards with only numbers didn't seem to have any achievements. They only obtained 10th place once. Back then many people were shocked. This is because such a number appearing on the ranking list does seem rather abrupt, Gong Jun explained. It's good that there are no other effects. Let's use this identity card. Di Beichen's expression was calm. Since Bai Luchuan was involved in this matter, it was definitely impossible to go to City Lord Manor to get an identity card. Since that was the case, why bother? Gong Jun nodded. Boss, madam, leave this matter to me. I'll send the identity cards to you after I prepare them. All right. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to their residence. On the way, they bought a few sets of information regarding the demon-slaying competition. Along the way there was an endless stream of hawking voices. All kinds of bindings were dazzling. It was said that many of the information were directly sold from previous years. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had already asked Gong Jun. Gong Jun had also pointed them to a shop. That shop's business was undoubtedly the best among all the shops. Its information was also much more expensive than the other information. Since the information in this shop was updated every year according to the cultivator's descriptions, The information recorded in the shop was obviously more comprehensive. However, there were also some problems. The content on it often came from cultivators' oral accounts, so there might be some inaccuracies. This needed to be judged by oneself. For this reason, Bailey Hongzhuang also bought 2 copies of other materials for comparison. Inside the house, the woman and man were each flipping through a set of documents. Beside them, the 2 furballs, one black and one white, were also seriously using their claws to scrape through the documents. Master, the records here are interesting. It is said that the demon crystals of these monsters are blood red. We have encountered such monsters before. Xiao Hei blinked her eyes. The demonic beasts she came into contact with usually did not have such demonic crystals, but in the desert world and the ocean world, the demonic beasts they came into contact with were all like this. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly raised her head. After reading the introduction, she had already thought of the desert world and the ocean world. It was indeed very imaginative. This is really strange. The desert world and the ocean world are real. Although we've been there for a long time, we still haven't figured out what that place is. I feel more and more that this chaos ring is a key to opening the door to a different world. Di Beichen slowly raised his eyes, a trace of seriousness on his handsome face. Chapter 65-31. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She thought the same. If that's really the case, doesn't that mean that these monsters didn't appear out of thin air, but came from another plane? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. Following this train of thought, things became very interesting. That's not impossible. Could it be that these monsters also ascended? That would be interesting. Her clear black and white eyes shone with an amused luster. Ever since she found out that not all cultivators who ascended to the immortal region came from the upper realm, she felt that this world was much bigger than she had imagined. There were probably countless parallel planes below the immortal region, and the best of these planes had all ascended to this place. Just like Gong Jun, he didn't come from the upper realm, but from another plane. However, these planes were basically the same. Apart from the different locations, there wasn't much difference. These monsters were quite different from them. Perhaps it was a plane full of monsters? Perhaps we'll know after the monster slaughtering competition begins. Di Beichen looked at the curious little face in front of him and couldn't help but reach out and rub her head. The competition will begin soon. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. I'll see what else we need to prepare. Before setting off, she had already prepared many things. Now that she had plenty of things, she didn't need to specially prepare. There are many experts in this monster slaughtering competition. It's said that because the cloud-gathering city is relatively weak, some experts may choose to participate here. This way their chances of success will be much higher. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, I think we should take the pill before the competition begins. Even if it increases our strength by a bit, it might be of great help when the time comes. Although the 10,000-year-old purple blood vine was useful for cultivators to break through to the elementary immortal realm, she felt that since it was a useful treasure, there was no need to wait until the end. Rather than waiting until the end, it was better to increase her cultivation level first. Otherwise, if she ended up like Guanhong Tian, wouldn't it be a pity if this thing fell into the hands of others? Di Beichen nodded. There's still half a month before the monster slaughtering competition begins. That's enough time. Gong Jun was very fast. In the evening, he had already delivered the identity medallions. Bailey Hongzhuang played with the identity medallion in her hand. It only had numbers on it. Perhaps it was because all the people who signed up were using their real names, so Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's identity cards were 001 and 002 respectively. This number is actually not bad, it's very close to the top. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Isn't it? Gong Jun chuckled. Although it's just a number, it's still better than other numbers. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, we plan to go into seclusion for a while before the demonic beast slaughtering competition. Understood. I won't disturb you for a while. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. The monster slaughtering competition is quite dangerous. Boss, you must be careful. Chapter 65-32. Seeing that the other party didn't knock on the door and directly entered the courtyard, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She wondered if it was Guan Yi who had instigated Bai Luchuan to cause trouble now. If this trouble were to erupt now, it would be much earlier than they had expected. It would also be more troublesome to deal with it. However, when the two of them walked into the courtyard, they saw a familiar face. Immediately, a look of surprise appeared on their faces. "Yin-che, why are you here?" Bailey Hongzhuang quickly stepped forward, her pretty face full of surprise. "Sister, brother-in-law." Bai Li Yin-che smiled. "I came today to ask if you know about the demon slaying competition." "We've already heard about it. We just signed up today and are preparing to participate." "What about you?" Bai Li Yin-che nodded. "We're also preparing to participate. Since we're out to train, we can't miss such an interesting thing." "Why are you here alone today? Where did Ling Er go?" Now that they were in a team of two, logically speaking, they shouldn't be separated no matter where they went. However, Bailey Hongzhuang looked around and didn't see Ling Er. "Ling Er has been in seclusion for the past few days. I originally wanted to wait for her to come out before looking for you, but I didn't expect her to be in seclusion for a while, so I came first." "I see." Bailey Hongzhuang was relieved. "Sister, let me take a look at the identity card." Bai Li Yin-che's eyes were filled with curiosity. "I was thinking that Ling Er is in seclusion now. I wonder if I can help her get an identity card?" It was best not to be disturbed by external forces during seclusion. He naturally didn't want to affect Ling Er at this time. However, the time for registration was limited. If he couldn't register during this period, it would be very troublesome to participate. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the ID card to Bai Li Yin-che. "Here, this is it." Looking at the number on the identity card, Bai Li Yin-che was a little surprised. "Are there only numbers on the identity card? How come I heard that there are cultivators' names?" "It's a long story. In short, I was tricked by someone. I couldn't get an identity card with my name directly from the city lord's mansion, so I had no choice but to use a numbered identity card. Fortunately, there are no other effects other than the number, so it doesn't matter." Bailey Hongzhuang waved the identity card in her hand, her delicate face rippling with a smile, like 100 flowers blooming. "So there's such an identity token? If Ling Er doesn't make it in time, can we also use this identity card?" Bai Li Yin-che's eyes lit up as he asked. "Logically speaking, it should be possible." "That's good." Bai Li Yin-che was relieved. The problem that he was most worried about had been solved. "You didn't come here today just to ask this question, right?" Di Beichen's eyes rippled with a wise luster. He knew Yin-che's character very well. If there wasn't anything important, he wouldn't have made a special trip here. Besides, Ling Er was still in seclusion at this moment. "Brother-in-law is really smart. You saw through it at a glance." Bai Li Yin-che didn't hide it. "I was thinking that the competition is about to start. On one hand, I wanted to inform you, and on the other hand, I wanted to ask my sister for some poison." Before they separated, each of them had put enough pills and runes on their bodies. However, this poison, he also felt that it would be very effective most of the time. Chapter 65-33. Poison? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. Why would you think of that? She was the only one who used poison on a daily basis, and the others had never mentioned it before. Therefore, when they were sorting out the cultivation resources, the others didn't have any in their storage rings. "Previously, I also heard about the conflict between you and the Wanbao Pavilion. I think that since you all need it, we naturally need it even more." Bai Li Yin-che smiled magnanimously. Although he was never afraid of a direct confrontation, no one knew if the other party would use underhanded methods. It was always better to be careful. "It seems that the matter we caused before is really well known." Bai Li Yin-che waved his hand. "The Wanbao Pavilion's influence in Shiyun City is not small, but it seems that many people don't have a good impression of the Wanbao Pavilion. Therefore, after this incident, many people felt very happy. At first, we just listened and didn't take it to heart. However, later on, we realized that the people they were talking about were too similar to you, so we came to understand." "Sister, have you bought an immortal pill furnace now?" Bai Li Yin-che frowned slightly. He also knew that Hongzhuang's initial plan was to buy an immortal pill furnace after leaving the abandoned immortal forest. This was because she could only start refining pills after she bought an immortal pill furnace. Otherwise, her alchemy skills would be useless. "Don't worry, I already have one." Bailey Hongzhuang replied with a smile. Ever since Gong Jun knew that she needed an immortal pill furnace, he immediately sent one over. Moreover, according to her research, the quality of this immortal pill furnace was much better than the white immortal pill furnace she saw before. However, this immortal pill furnace was completely black and decorated with fiery red datura flowers. The entire structure looked very enchanting and exquisite, revealing an indescribable beauty. When she first saw this immortal pill furnace, She was stunned because she had never seen such a strange pattern. After using this immortal pill furnace, she found that it was very useful. She vaguely felt that it was not inferior to Granny Hua's immortal pill furnace. She wasn't sure about that herself. After all, she wasn't a weapon refiner, so she didn't know how to judge the grade of the two immortal pill furnaces. The only thing she could be sure of was that this immortal pill furnace was extremely useful, and her success rate in refining pills was also quite high. In short, she was very satisfied with this immortal pill furnace. For this reason, she had even asked Gong Jun about it. However, according to Gong Jun, he had only obtained it by accident and did not know its true origin. That's good. I was originally worried that you wouldn't be able to buy an immortal pill furnace in the Myriad Treasure Pavilion and would have to find a way to buy one in other cities. Now that we have it, we can rest assured. If we run to other cities, it will be more troublesome, Bai Li Yanche said with a smile. Yanche, have you heard of the Celestial Treasure Pavilion? I've heard about this too. It seems that his reputation is much better than Wanbao Pavilion's. At least his attitude is much better. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, and there was a smile in their eyes. We're now in a cooperative relationship with the Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Oh? Bai Li Yanche raised his eyebrows. You guys are really amazing. How long have you been in Shiyun City and you've already started doing business? It's just a coincidence. Chapter 65-34. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the poisons she'd concocted and handed them to Bai Li Yanche. She then wrote down the different effects of each poison and left behind some antidotes. Once the poison took effect, it would inevitably require an antidote if it fell on one of their own. After all, Yanche had never used poison before. Big sister, I understand. Don't worry. Bai Li Yanche put the poisons into his storage ring and smiled brightly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She wasn't too worried. Once the demon-slaying competition started, they would likely meet again. Then I'll go back first. Ling is still in seclusion. I have to watch over her. Take good care of Ling. In the next moment, Bailey Yanche's figure flashed and disappeared from the courtyard. Master, do you think Yanche will succeed if he spends some time alone with Ling? Xiao Hei scooted over when she saw Bai Li Yanche leave, a gossipy smile on her face. Bailey Hongzhuang flicked Xiao Hei's head. You're so mischievous. Master, how am I small? I'm clearly older than Yanche, okay? Xiao Hei rubbed the spot where she'd flicked her head. She looked sullen. If it weren't for the fact that she was a special species and hadn't been able to transform into a human, she would have been like Yanche and the others a long time ago. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. Because Xiao Hei and Xiao Bai didn't seem to have changed after so many years, she subconsciously felt that Yanche was an adult and Xiao Hei was still a little fellow. I'm talking about your small size. Really? Xiao Hei dragged out the last syllable. Her face was full of disbelief. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't look guilty at all. You haven't transformed into a human yet, which means you're still a child. As for Yanche and Ling, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly as memories of the two flashed through her mind. I'm a little curious. If they really get together, what will their child be? Xiao Hei's eyes widened. So her master was thinking even further than her? I don't know. Di Beichen shook his head. Usually, demonic beasts that have yet to transform into human form are usually of the same species. After transforming into human form, they have more choices. As for their offspring, I'm afraid they won't know until the very last moment. The dragon has 9 sons and the 9 sons are different. If Linger and Yanche have 2 children in the future, they might not be the same type, right? Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow. Thinking about it like this, things were really interesting. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why there are so many different types of demonic beasts in this world. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Indeed. Now that you mention it, I suddenly understand why there are so many different types of demonic beasts. Xiao Hei looked at Xiao Bai. Why is Master's focus on this? You don't understand, do you? Xiao Bai looked at Xiao Hei with disdain. This means that Master has already decided that they will be together. Xiao Hei was stunned when she heard this. Then she understood in the next moment. So that's how it is. Your reaction is too slow. Let's just wait for the good news. Xiao Bai winked with a smug expression. Chapter 65-35. Guan Family. Guan Hongtian handed over the cultivation resources to Guan Yi and said, Iner, you must perform well in this monster slaughtering competition. If you can get a good ranking and catch the city lord's eye, your future will be limitless. Thank you, uncle. I will definitely work hard. Guan Yi's face was full of smiles. With these cultivation resources, he should be able to increase his strength before the monster slaughtering competition. Those two fellows from the Immortal Treasure Pavilion might also participate. You must be careful. Guan Hongtian's face revealed a trace of fear. Whenever he thought of those two fellows, he felt like he couldn't breathe properly. He had been in the Serene Cloud City for so many years. He never thought that he would fall into the hands of two young fellows this time. Especially when they said such words, it made him even angrier. However, he also understood that it was best not to offend them now. Otherwise, if something like this happened again, his family's property would be emptied. Uncle, I don't think they will necessarily participate in the monster slaughtering competition. Guan Yi chuckled. He couldn't help but feel a little flustered. However, when he thought of the two of them leaving with their tails between their legs, he still felt a burst of joy. Hearing this, Guan Hongtian's face revealed a trace of doubt. What do you mean? Today I went to sign up with Bai Luchuan. After he heard about the incident, he stopped them from signing up. What happened after that? Guan Hongtian revealed a look of curiosity. How dare they cause trouble in the city lord's mansion? After being reprimanded, they directly left. Guan Yi smiled. Guan Hongtian nodded happily. Good. That's great. However, I don't know if they will receive a numbered identity card to participate. No matter what, this incident will dampen their spirit. It will prevent them from being so arrogant. Guan Hongtian put a hand on Guan Yi's shoulder. His face was full of gratification. Bai Luchuan is the city lord's nephew. He has a very good relationship with the city lord's son, Bai Qingli. If you can get in touch with Bai Qingli through him, it will be very beneficial for your future. You should know what to do, right? Guan Yi nodded confidently. Uncle, don't worry. I know what to do. That's good. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went into seclusion after taking the pills. Feeling the medicinal power of the pills in their bodies, the two of them couldn't help but feel happy. The effects of the 10,000-year purple blood vine were indeed extraordinary. Its rich medicinal energy was not something that ordinary medicinal pills could compare to. An endless stream of medicinal power flowed through his body like a flame, continuously strengthening his body's strength and strengthening his Dantian's origin energy. At this moment, the two of them were surrounded by piles of blood spirit stones. A steady stream of origin energy was emitted from the blood spirit stone and absorbed into their bodies. Every time the power of a blood spirit stone was completely absorbed, it would turn into powder and break apart. However, the two of them had practically filled the house with blood spirit stones. Even if the absorption rate was extremely fast, there was no need to worry about the blood spirit stones for the time being. Speaking of which, this was all thanks to Guan Hongtian's generosity. Almost all of these blood spirit stones had come from Guan Hongtian, so they would undoubtedly be of great help to them. Chapter 65-36. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Gong Jun stood in the courtyard and anxiously paced back and forth. From time to time he would stop and look at the closed door. After discovering that there was no movement, he began to anxiously pace back and forth again, sighing from time to time. Today is the day of the monster slaughter competition. Why are Boss and the others still in seclusion? If they don't come out today, they won't be able to make it in time. Gong Jun's face was full of worry. He originally thought that Boss and Madam would definitely come and tell him before they set off. However, he didn't see the two of them in the shop today. He couldn't help but feel a little worried, so he ran over. Who knew that when he came over to take a look, he would find that the two of them were still in seclusion in the room and had no intention of coming out. He immediately became even more anxious. Creak. Just as Gong Jun was thinking about whether he should knock on the door, the closed door suddenly opened. Immediately after, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's figures appeared in his line of sight. Gong Jun rushed over. Boss, you're finally out of seclusion. The monster slaughter competition is starting today. Di Beichen nodded. We know. You guys are too calm. If we don't make it in time, we'll miss it. Gong Jun looked depressed. Let's go. Yes. Along the way, Gong Jun also explained the situation after the monster slaughter competition began. Boss, I've also learned about the details of the competition from others. It's said that the location of the monster slaughter competition is in a mountain range behind our Shiyun city. Normally, this mountain range is accessible, but other than the people from the Mercenary Union, most people don't go there. Because these monsters reproduce very quickly, A large purge must be carried out every year. Otherwise it'll be too late. The entire competition lasts for a month. If you're injured in the middle, you can rest in the periphery. There is a ranking board set up there as well as the previous rankings. The ranking will constantly change according to the score on the identity card. It will be immediately displayed. Now, everyone has basically gathered at the entrance. It will officially start at noon. Di Beichen looked at the sky. With their current speed, they should be able to make it in time. Gong Jun, you're participating in the monster slaughter competition with us. Have you arranged the Immortal Treasure Pavilion's matters? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose slightly. With Gong Jun's strength, it was not impossible for him to defeat Shiyun City's Wanbao Pavilion. However, once he went to the competition, the Immortal Treasure Pavilion would be left unattended, and Guanhong Tian wouldn't be participating. Of the two to Shiyun City? Of the monster. Now that most of the cultivators have come to participate in the monster slaughter competition, if I do business here, it'll definitely be better than outside. Seeing Gong Jun's proud expression, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen immediately understood what he was thinking. Originally, they thought that Gong Jun didn't really want to participate in the competition. Why did he suddenly change his mind? So this was the reason. Gong Jun, I'm suddenly starting to admire you. Chapter 65-37. With Gong Jun leading the way, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He quickly saw the sea of people in front of them. Even though they had already guessed that there would be a lot of cultivators participating in the competition, they were still shocked when they saw the number of people in front of them. Master, are these just cultivators from one city? Isn't the number of people a little too shocking? Xiao He was secretly speechless. This was just the number of people in one city, but it seemed as if all the people in the upper realm cities had arrived here. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was a little complicated. She knew that Shiyun City was very big, but now it seemed that this area was still beyond their imagination. In fact, although they had turned around on the streets of Shiyun City, this location was just a small area of Shiyun City. There were many places they had never been to before. Boss, Madam, Shiyun City's area is really big. A city here is comparable to a dynasty in the plane we were in before. The number of cultivators here is innumerable, so this demon-slaying competition is actually very dangerous. Gong Jun timely reminded. If I didn't want to have boss's protection and take this opportunity to do business, I wouldn't participate in such a dangerous competition. If I lose my life here, then it's really not worth it. Gong Jun's face was full of fear. It was because his cultivation was basically piled up with heaven and earth treasures, and he wasn't very good at fighting. Don't worry, when the time comes, the three of us will be together. If anything happens, we can take care of each other. Di Beichen spoke out. Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. Thank you, boss. With so many cultivators gathered here, the appearance of the three of them wouldn't attract any attention at all. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's fluttering white robes were very eye-catching against this slightly dark land. Coupled with their temperament, it was impossible for people to ignore them. Therefore, in just a short moment, many people noticed them. Brother E, look at them. They actually came to participate in the competition. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's figure, Yun Xiaoman's complexion suddenly became unsightly. She originally thought that this woman wouldn't come today, but she didn't expect to meet her again. Guanyi turned his gaze. As expected, he saw the two indifferent people. His brows furrowed unconsciously. Although his strength had improved a little compared to before, he was still uncertain when he thought about Bailey Hongzhuang's poison methods. Guanyi, these two fellows really won't give up until they hit a wall. The corners of Bai Liuchuan's lips curled into a playful smile, but there was a hint of coldness in the depths of his eyes. I've been in Shiyun City for so long, and it's been a long time since I've seen such a fun person, hee. Upon hearing Bai Liuchuan's laughter, Guanyi knew that he was already angry. The two of them haven't been in Shiyun City for long, but they are very arrogant. What happened last time was obviously not enough to teach them a lesson. Guanyi slowly said. Yun Xiaoman also said, Brother Bai, I feel that they don't put you in their eyes at all. They clearly know that you didn't let them participate, but they still came today. Isn't this deliberately provoking you? As soon as these words came out, Bai Liuchuan's gaze immediately turned cold. Chapter 65-38. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Bai Liuchuan's gaze was sinister and ruthless. There's a path to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell, but you want to barge in. Since that's the case, I'll make sure they don't leave this time. Seeing that Bai Luchuan was angry, a trace of pride appeared in Yun Xiaoman's eyes. Among the participating cultivators, there were countless people who wanted to curry favor with the city lord but had no way to do so. As long as Bai Luchuan said a word, there would definitely be a lot of people who would help. These two guys are dead for sure this time. Bailey Hongzhuang was searching for Bai Li Yanche and the others in the crowd. According to her judgment, everyone should be here today. However, after searching she realized that there were too many people. At most, she could only see a portion of the cultivators outside. As for the ones inside, she couldn't see them at all. However, during the process of searching, she realized that there were a few gazes locked onto her. He slowly shifted his gaze and as expected, he saw Guan Yi's group. Beside them was a yellow-robed man. It was Bai Luchuan. At this moment, Bai Luchuan's gaze was still filled with a trace of hatred that had yet to dissipate. Immediately, her heart turned cold. Although she didn't know what method Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman had used to make Bai Luchuan hate them to the extreme, it was obvious that they had another true opponent. Boss, this Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman are quite capable. They actually made Bai Luchuan hate us to this extent. Gong Jun's gaze was still very accurate. Just by noticing that gaze he already understood. Speaking of which, there was really no relationship between them and Bai Luchuan. They never thought that Bai Luchuan would be angrier than them. If you're not strong enough, you can only use some methods to make others stand up for you. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. There was also a trace of anger in her heart. Then we have to be careful after the competition begins. Bai Luchuan is also a character. Since he has such an attitude, I don't know if Bai Qingli will also vent her anger. Gong Jun's face revealed a trace of seriousness. He was also very familiar with these matters of scheming. Gong Jun, then you have to be careful. Di Beichen chuckled. With so many people targeting us, we might not even be able to protect ourselves. Hearing this, Gong Jun couldn't help but shrink his neck. Then he pretended to be full of confidence and said, "Boss, you're not afraid. As your little brother, I can't admit defeat." "As long as you're mentally prepared," Di Beichen said. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her gaze to the ranking board in front of her. The huge ranking board was right in front of her, but there was no ranking on it at all. Next to the ranking board was the previous ranking board. The previous ranking board recorded the names of the previous top rankers. Among them, the most eye-catching name was Bai Qingli. There are a total of 10 tournaments. Bai Qingli actually occupies the majority of the rankings. The strength is really not simple. Bailey Hongzhuang's brows revealed a trace of surprise. No wonder the city lord's mansion gave out such generous rewards. It turned out that it all fell into her son's pocket. However, such a result was enough to see Bai Qingli's astonishing strength. Bai Qingli is indeed a proud son of heaven. His strength is astonishing. In this cloud city, who knows how many women admire him. However, he doesn't seem to be interested in this at all. His greatest interest is in cultivation. Chapter 65-39. Hearing this, a rough image appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. According to Gong Jun's description, this Bai Qingli should be a very upright person. However, in today's world, it could be said that one may know a person's face but not their heart. Rumors might not be completely credible. Sometimes, it was not impossible for the elegant gentleman in the rumors to be a vicious and despicable villain. Boss, the rewards for the top 10 this time are very rich. The rewards for the top 3 are different, but the rewards for the 4th to 10th are about the same. Gong Jun said with a face of interest. You think so highly of me? You're my boss. If I don't think highly of you, who will I think highly of? Gong Jun rubbed his hands and said, this monster's demon crystal is also useful for cultivators' cultivation, but it's more useful for alchemy. Many immortal medicine masters will collect the demon crystal to refine pills. It has a very good effect, so when you hunt monsters you have to keep the demon crystal. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Qingli immediately understood. It turned out that this guy had been flattering for half a day and the final goal was this. This demon crystal can be used for alchemy? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She had never tried using demon crystals to refine pills, so she didn't know how effective it was. When they were in the abandoned immortal forest, Granny Hua didn't say much about this. It seemed that Granny Hua hadn't left the abandoned immortal forest for many years, and these monsters hadn't been around for long, so it was normal that Granny Hua didn't know. That's right. Gong Jun nodded. Madam, you're an immortal medicine master. This demon crystal should be of great help to you. Bailey Hongzhuang thought that after the demon slaughter competition ended, She had to think of a way to make friends with the immortal medicine masters of Cloud City. Thinking about it, these immortal medicine masters should have some understanding of using demon crystals to refine pills. Just as the three of them were talking, a loud voice suddenly rang out, attracting everyone's attention. Welcome heroes from all walks of life to participate in this demon slaughter competition. This is not only a chance for you to fight for glory, but also a chance for you to contribute to Cloud City. No matter if you can achieve good results or not, as long as you kill a demon, it will be your contribution. You will forever be the heroes of Xiun City. The city lord stood on the high platform and swept his gaze across the crowd. When this gaze swept over them, everyone only felt an extremely terrifying pressure, causing them to be unable to move at all. Only when he shifted his gaze away did he heave a sigh of relief. Immediately, his gaze towards the city lord was filled with amazement. Gong Jun, has the city lord already broken through to the elementary immortal stage? After Bailey Hongzhuang felt the terrible gaze, she had a guess in her heart. Gong Jun nodded. The city lord's strength has indeed broken through to the elementary celestial stage. However, no one knows exactly what his cultivation level is. Does that mean the city lords of the realm of chaos are related to the realm of immortals? Di Beichen suddenly realized something. Actually, I also have such a guess. It is said that every city lord has already ascended to become an immortal. The number of cultivators in the realm of chaos is extremely shocking. If the city lord does not have such power, he would not be able to intimidate so many cultivators. Logically speaking, the realm of chaos would not allow the realm of immortals to do as they please. Therefore, it is very likely that the city lord was arranged by them. However, this news has not been confirmed, so I am only guessing. Chapter 65-40. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Although they didn't have concrete evidence, the more they thought about it, the more likely it was. The immortal realm had existed for so many years, so there must have been a rule. It was just that people who had just ascended often didn't understand the knack of it. After hearing the city lord's words, everyone present had a fervent look in their eyes. For many cultivators who had just ascended, they didn't have any foundation in the immortal realm. If they wanted to gain a foothold here, they could only rely on themselves to make a name for themselves. Participating in various competitions to obtain cultivation resources was the fairest path. Of course, cultivators like Guan Yi, whose family had already ascended, would grow much faster here than others. The rules of this demon-slaying competition are the same as the previous ones. As long as you kill a monster, your identity card will automatically record points according to the level of the monster you killed. As long as you get into the top 10, you will receive a very generous reward. However, before the competition begins, I want to remind everyone that these monsters are getting stronger and stronger. Everyone must be careful when dealing with them. Over the years, many cultivators have died in the competition. This is our eternal regret. The city lord's face revealed a trace of regret. He looked like he was very sympathetic to this matter. Everyone was slightly moved, and there was a trace of fear in their hearts. Now, I announce the official start of the demon-slaying competition. The city lord's face revealed a trace of heroism. Heroes, please enter the mountain range. As soon as these words came out, all the cultivators seemed to have received a call. They didn't stay any longer and quickly rushed inside. As everyone rushed into the mountain range like a swarm of bees, the sea of cultivators disappeared in the blink of an eye. Everyone leaped into the mountain range at their fastest speed. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two didn't delay. They immediately sped up and rushed into the mountain range. This was a black land. The entire mountain range was black. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at the surrounding environment. She actually felt that this place was very similar to the place where the skeleton army appeared. It was the same black soil, and the surroundings were filled with dense dark energy. In the past, they viewed the skeleton army as a snake and scorpion. But now, the skeleton army had become their good helpers. Therefore, they didn't feel uncomfortable in such an environment. Boss, you haven't seen such an environment before, right? It's said that many people can't adapt to such an environment. What do you think? Gong Jun looked at Di Beichen with concern. We have to stay in this mountain range for the next month? Di Beichen smiled faintly. I'm quite used to this kind of environment. Actually, the environment here is not bad. Boss, you actually don't mind? Di Beichen nodded. There's nothing wrong with the environment. This place is filled with the power of darkness. Everyone doesn't like the power of darkness. However, It seems that only a small number of darkness attribute cultivators have successfully ascended. Gong Jun spread out his hands and sighed, I don't know why these monsters are all darkness type. No wonder darkness type cultivators are so discriminated against. Chapter 65-41. I am of the darkness attribute. Di Baichen's voice slowly sounded, and his gaze was slightly complicated. Ever since he came to the celestial realm, he also learned that the situation of the darkness attribute being discriminated against was even more exaggerated than in the upper realm. Fortunately, since the establishment of the Dark Sacred Assembly in the upper realm, this situation had improved, but the situation in the celestial realm was even more complicated. Thinking about it, it was precisely because of this environment that Master and Master's wife went to the lower realm. Unexpectedly, in the end they still ended up in such a situation. Was really a pity. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at Gong Jun and said, I am also of the darkness attribute. Now was not the same as in the upper realm. When she first learned her attribute she did not know enough about many things. Coming here was equivalent to starting from scratch. Beichen had already said that he was of the darkness attribute, so she naturally would not miss it. After Gong Jun heard that Bailey Hongzhuang was also of the darkness attribute, he was immediately stunned. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. Madam, you are of the darkness attribute? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and looked at Gong Jun in confusion. Yes, what's wrong? Why was Gong Jun not surprised that Beichen was of the darkness attribute, but was so surprised that she was of the darkness attribute? Gong Jun also realized that his performance was too shocking, and immediately smiled embarrassedly. I just looked at Madam's appearance, and you really don't look like a cultivator of the darkness attribute. Then you are wrong, I am indeed of the darkness attribute. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, and a wisp of darkness energy appeared in her hand. How is it? Are you scared? Gong Jun stared blankly at the wisp of darkness energy in Bailey Hongzhuang's palm, and a dark light flashed in his eyes, followed by a joyful smile on his face. I knew it must be fate that allowed me to meet boss and madam, haha. The hearty laughter attracted the attention of Di Beichen and Di Beichen. The two looked at Gong Jun's excited appearance and could not help but feel a little puzzled. Why are you smiling so happily all of a sudden? Don't you discriminate against dark attribute cultivators? Actually, that's not it. Gong Jun shook his head, but the joy on his face did not change. Madam, do you know why I didn't participate in the demon slaying competition? Isn't it because you're lazy? Is that because you're afraid of death? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Gong Jun in disbelief. In her opinion, other than these two reasons, she really couldn't think of any other reason. Facing that sharp gaze, Gong Jun chuckled and said, well, actually what you said is one of the reasons. But other than that, I have another reason. I'm a darkness cultivator. I'm worried that if I participate in the monster slaughter competition, I might be targeted by many people. At that time, I might lose my life. If that's the case, I might as well do my business properly. At least I don't have to worry about losing my life, right? As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lin Yiqin were both surprised. You're also a darkness cultivator? Isn't that so? Gong Jun said with a serious face. Look. A wisp of black energy appeared in Gong Jun's hand, revealing his identity as a darkness cultivator. Hee, don't you think we're birds of a feather? Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. She really didn't want to be associated with this guy. Boss. Chapter 65-42. Gong Jun, what mountain range is this? Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. There were still many cultivators near them. Even though everyone had tried their best to disperse after entering the mountain range, there were still many people. It was impossible to completely disperse in a short period of time. Among the many cultivators there were groups of 3 to 5. Some were in large groups with more than 10 people or even dozens of people. Of course, there were also people who traveled alone. In comparison, their team of 3 was considered to be relatively small in number. Madam, this is the Demon Slaughter Mountain Range. It's said that this place wasn't originally called this, and the environment is very good. It's somewhat similar to the abandoned immortal forest. There are many treasures here. Usually, many people come here to search for treasures. However, after monsters appeared many years ago, the environment here began to change bit by bit. As the Demon Slaughter competition continued, everyone called this place the Demon Slaughter Mountain Range for the sake of a better name. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. This name is indeed easy to remember. Be careful, this is a monster. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was walking, a flower not far from her suddenly opened its bloody mouth and bit at her. Di Baichen drew his sharp sword and instantly cut the flower in half. At the same time, his identity card had an additional point. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the dead flower on the ground. Her eyes were filled with emotion. Previously, I saw that this flower was only at the height of my ankle. I didn't expect it to reach the height of a person in the blink of an eye. The speed is really amazing. Madam, there are many monsters in this demon slaughter mountain range. Many of them don't look like much, but they will attack people. Therefore we must be careful. Gong Jun patted his chest in shock and looked at Di Baichen ingratiatingly. As expected, boss is wise and mighty. Not far away, when Bai Luchuan saw this scene, the mockery in his eyes intensified. It's just cutting down a man-eating flower, but they are so proud. They really haven't seen the world. Brother Bai, they've just ascended not long ago. Naturally, they haven't seen much of the world. They're so proud of such a small matter. They don't know how laughable it is. Yun Xiaoman's eyes were also filled with disgust. She began to feel that they might not even need to do anything, and these guys would die in this mountain range. Luchuan, how are you going to teach them a lesson? Guan Yi turned his head with concern and worry on his face. As long as these two fellows didn't die, he wouldn't be able to feel at ease. He didn't expect that even Gong Jun would come along this time. As long as he killed Gong Jun, his uncle would have one less thing to worry about. It was killing two birds with one stone. Once they succeeded, they would be completely at ease. Bai Luchuan narrowed his eyes slightly as a teasing smile appeared on his face. There's no need for us to do anything. We just need to instruct others to do it. Guan Yi's eyes brightened. With your ability, it's easy to find some powerful cultivators to deal with them. Bai Luchuan shook his head. If we kill them directly, wouldn't it be too boring? Then what do you mean? Find someone to bribe them and let them be coolies. Wouldn't it be more satisfying to finish them off in the end? Chapter 65-43. Just when Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman were a little puzzled and didn't understand what Bai Luchuan meant, he had already used his actions to show his plan. Bai Luchuan stopped and called a person not far away. He whispered a few words into the man's ear and pointed at the three figures in front of him. Do you understand? Don't worry, Master Bai. I will definitely resolve this matter properly. Remember, don't let them find out that I ordered it. Yes. After the man left, Bai Luchuan said, let's go. Let's go further away so that they won't notice anything. If they know that I ordered them to do this, they will definitely not agree. Things won't be fun. Yun Xiaoman smiled and nodded. Brother Bai is really smart. He actually came up with such an interesting idea. They definitely won't think that this matter is related to us. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two moved forward. They decided to choose a direction where there weren't many cultivators. So far, the monsters they had encountered were only some ordinary flowers and plants. It was said that these powerful monsters were all in the depths of the mountain range. Moreover, there were already many cultivators in the place they were passing through, so there weren't many monsters left. Just as the three of them sped up and rushed forward, a voice suddenly sounded not far away from them. Hey, those three people. Hearing this voice, the three of them continued to move forward as if they didn't hear it. I'm talking to the three of you. Stop. When the man realized that the three guys he didn't care about actually dared to ignore his call, his expression immediately turned ugly. His figure flew and blocked in front of the three of them. I'm calling you. Why are you ignoring me? Looking at the man who suddenly appeared in front of them, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were a little surprised. You're calling us? If not you, who else would I be calling? There was a trace of anger on the man's face. He didn't expect that three newcomers who had just arrived in Xi'an City would dare to be so arrogant. However, before he could flare up, he heard the conversation between the three of them. Boss, do you know him? No. He can't be thinking of joining our team, right? Actually, I think the three of us are pretty good now. We don't need to join anyone else for the time being. What do you think? That's right. Then I'll think of a way to reject him. The man's face was livid. This conversation made him more and more speechless. So, where did these guys get their sense of superiority from? They actually think I want to join their team? What was so attractive about a three-man team that was weak and had even offended Master Bai? I say you three, I'll give you a chance. The man said coldly. He raised his chin slightly and his face was full of pride. Brother, there's no need for that. The three of us are doing quite well. We don't plan on letting anyone else join us for the time being. As Gong Jun spoke, he suddenly realized that the other party was asking them to join. He was stunned for a moment. You mean join you? That's my team over there. The man pointed at the team not far away, and the arrogance on his face became more obvious. Chapter 65-44. Our team is the largest out of all the teams participating in this competition. If you follow us, you'll at least be safe. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She could tell at a glance that the other party's team wasn't reliable. The purpose of participating in the competition was to fight for the top 10 spots. It would already be good if this team of dozens of people didn't have internal strife. Just getting along with each other was an extravagant hope. However, there's a condition for joining our team. What is it? Di Beichen asked with interest. After joining us, you'll have to contribute all the points on your identity card to our team leader. Once our team leader gets into the top 10, a portion of the cultivation resources will be given to you. You should know that it's impossible for the three of you to get into the top 10. If you join us, you'll at least get some cultivation resources. This is an opportunity that many people can't get. If it weren't for the fact that the three of you are quite pleasing to the eye, this opportunity wouldn't have fallen into your hands. Hearing this condition, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. This kind of behavior should be considered cheating. From another point of view, this was indeed a good method. Since one person's strength couldn't succeed, they would gather everyone's strength. This way the success rate would greatly increase. However, this kind of thing wasn't attractive to them at all. A trace of disdain appeared in Gong Jun's eyes. He had some understanding of the rewards for the top 10. These cultivation resources were very abundant for one person, but no matter what kind of cultivation resources it was, after being divided among dozens of people, what would be left? They were the ones who opened the Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Whether it was boss or madam, refining some celestial spirit pills and celestial talismans would already be more generous than this. Thank you, brother. We appreciate your kindness, but as for joining, we'll pass, Gong Jun said with a smile. The man was originally waiting for the three of them to thank him, but he was suddenly rejected. His expression instantly became very ugly. You're actually rejecting such a good opportunity? Brother, the conditions of your team are so good that I'm sure you'll be so happy that you'll forget about your home. The three of us will take our leave first. Gong Jun cupped his hands in greeting. He knew that his boss was not interested in such things at all. He immediately thanked him and planned to leave. Seeing that the three of them were about to leave, the man's face turned green. He had promised Master Bai that he would complete the task. If he let the three of them leave, it would mean he had failed. It would be impossible for him to be trusted by Master Bai in the future. Thinking of this, the man took another step forward. Are you sure? Yes. Di Beichen said indifferently. A dim light flashed through his eyes that were as deep as the sea. Originally, he didn't take this matter to heart. However, the other party's repeated invitations were rather strange. His gaze swept the surroundings, but he did not find any familiar figures. Only then did he withdraw his gaze. So you're saying that you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? The man's gaze turned gloomy, and there was a hint of threat in his voice. At the same time, the other cultivators in the group also rushed over. Obviously, they wanted to know what had happened. Chapter 65-45. All of a sudden, the cultivators stopped Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two from leaving. Look, their ID cards have numbers on them. At this moment, a surprised voice with a hint of ridicule was heard. Then the other cultivators noticed the identity cards of the three of them. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two all turned their identity cards over. In order for the ID cards to record their information, they all hung their ID cards around their waists. Although the crowd did not see the serial number on the identity card clearly, as long as they saw the number, they could confirm that this was indeed an identity card. I heard that some people did something wrong when they tried to get their ID cards. That's why they didn't get their ID cards. Could it be them? If that's the case, they should just stay away from the team. We don't want to lower our standards. Everyone sneered. Their eyes were full of mockery. I had my eyes on them. I didn't expect them to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. They are asking for death. The man's eyes turned cold. At this moment he was sure that they had really offended Master Bai. They had been stopped from joining the Monster Slayer competition. They had to use other methods to join. No wonder Master Bai wanted to deal with them. However, Master Bai wanted to deal with them after he was done using them. If he did it right away, would Master Bai be unhappy? Faced with the mockery, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were stunned. These people were looking for trouble. Boss, what do we do now? Gong Jun asked Di Beichen. There were dozens of them. If they fought, they would be at a disadvantage. Both of them were Radiant Sun Realm cultivators. Their superiority in numbers was no joke. Di Beichen's smoky eyebrows were slightly raised, and his dark and deep eyes revealed a trace of playfulness and wisdom. No rush. Maybe they don't want to fight. Gong Jun was shocked. He looked at Di Beichen in confusion. Did he hear it wrong? They were surrounded by so many people. If they didn't want to fight, what did they want to do? Bailey Hongzhuang was also lost in thought. Beichen suddenly said such words, he must have seen through something. It's just that they had never seen each other before, so what problem could there be? However, when they were silent, the other party did not make a move. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun suddenly understood a bit. The other party really did not want to make a move? Not only them, but the other members of the team were also puzzled. Captain, why waste time talking to them? Just kill them. I don't think they are capable. They won't contribute many points. Why don't we kill them? Apart from them, we can still recruit others. The man looked complicated. He wanted to shut them all up. He knew what was the easiest way to deal with them. However, he had to find a way to satisfy Master Bai. Thinking of this, the man once again looked at Di Beichen and the other two. I will give you one last chance. If you don't agree, then I can only take your lives first. Chapter 65-46. After hearing what the man said, Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun realized that there must be something wrong with this whole thing. Maybe it was just a coincidence that they came to them. But if they didn't do anything under such circumstances, only an idiot would believe it. Come to think of it, we haven't been here for long, and we have only offended Guanhong Tian and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke through mind connection. Boss, what are you going to do? Gong Jun also understood that since the other party was targeting them, this matter would definitely not be easily resolved. Unless they could break out of the encirclement, otherwise if they did not meet the other party's wishes, they would definitely not let this matter rest. Let's beat them at their own game. As soon as these words came out, Gong Jun immediately understood. In the next moment, Gong Jun sized up the people around him, and a trace of fear appeared on his face. Big brother, we were wrong. We are willing to do it. Gong Jun showed a flattering and scared smile. This is such a good chance. We can't wait. As he was talking, Gong Jun pulled Di Beichen's clothes, signaling him to agree. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also thought that they had to show an appropriate amount of fear to make the other party believe that they had really changed their minds. They did not think that with Gong Jun, this drama queen, they did not need to worry about it. That's right. The two of them didn't want to do it, but they had to agree. The man saw that Di Beichen and the other two couldn't take it. He just said something casually and they fell into the trap. He felt relieved. At least he didn't need to worry that he couldn't finish the mission given to him by Master Bai. Captain, do these three cowards look like they're capable of anything? I am definitely not as good as... One of the men beside the man couldn't help but voice his opinion. The three of them were forced to agree. If they joined in like this, it would tarnish the reputation of their team. However, before the man could finish his words, the captain glanced at him and immediately shut his mouth, not daring to say anything else. The team leader felt helpless. He didn't expect Master Bai to give him such a mission. It was much more difficult than just killing them. He had to use his brain. How troublesome. The three of you will follow us. Someone will explain everything to you later. The captain looked at the three of them indifferently. Don't cause trouble. Otherwise, don't blame me if you lose your life. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two then joined the group of dozens of people. After a rough look, there were a total of 60 people. Sensing this huge group, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. Do you think that all the points earned by the cultivators in this group would be given to Bai Qingli? Didn't he take first place in 3 consecutive monster-slaying competitions? Since this competition has such an unwritten rule with his strength in Xi'an City, it should be easy for him to win first place. She thought it would be a fair competition. She thought it would be interesting. She didn't think it would end up like this. She was a bit disappointed. Originally, I thought that Bai Qingli's strength was unquestionable, but now I'm not so sure. Chapter 65-47. Even if he doesn't use these methods, it won't be bad. However, with such methods the results will be more stable. Upon hearing that, Di Baichen slowly said, "Don't worry. We will soon find out the truth." With such a huge team, they naturally didn't have to worry about others finding trouble with them along the way. When the others saw their formation, they almost consciously avoided them. If they were to clash with such a team, wouldn't it be equivalent to courting death? However, Bailey Hongzhuang and company had enough of these people rolling their eyes at them along the way. I really don't understand what the captain sees in the three of them. They're good for nothing, yet they dare to put on airs. I can't wait to beat them up. Perhaps the captain has taken a fancy to this woman? To be honest, this woman is indeed an outstanding beauty. No man can turn a blind eye to her. So what? It's obvious that they're already a couple. I don't think the captain will be interested. Bailey Hongzhuang played with a stalk of grass in her hand. She really wanted to remind the guys behind her that if they were speaking ill of others behind their backs, they could at least keep their voices down. If they were deliberately trying to be heard by them, there was no need to think in such a gossipy direction. They had nothing to do with each other. Madam, now everyone thinks that it's a femme fatale. Gong Jun couldn't help but laugh. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Gong Jun. I think it's a femme fatale. If it weren't for this fellow, they wouldn't have bumped into Bai Luchuan when they signed up. Although the final outcome was inevitable, at least the process didn't have to be so torturous. There was no need for a serial number on the identity card. Along the way they had seen quite a number of demons. However, before they could make a move, the others around them had already dealt with all of them. The funniest thing was that these people had actually surrounded the three of them in the middle of the team in the name of protecting the newcomers. Regarding this, the captain had also instructed the others not to do so. It was fine if he didn't instruct them, but with this instruction, the others went even more overboard. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were very calm about this situation. After all, these guys had made up their minds to not give them a chance to increase their points. They were happy to be idle and watch the others deal with it. This kind of feeling was like having countless subordinates around him. Once danger appeared, these subordinates would directly rush out and wipe out all obstacles. It felt like 100 people would respond to a single call. We are now heading towards a tunnel with many monsters. Although there is a certain amount of risk there, the speed of gaining points will be much faster than in other places. We will arrive at noon tomorrow. At that time, the three of you can go ahead and scout the way. Make use of your abilities. You are newcomers, but since you are here, you have to come into contact with demons. You don't have to worry too much. It's not very dangerous there. Besides, there are so many of us here. Everyone will protect you. At this time, a man who was following beside the captain walked up to the three of them and gave them instructions for the next day. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two looked at each other and nodded. Okay. However, when they nodded, they did not ignore the strange gazes of the people around them. Chapter 65-48. Even if he didn't say anything, the three of them knew that the so-called tunnel was definitely not a good place. The so-called lack of danger and protection was purely a joke. It seems like we've been treated as stones. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Xiaohe looked puzzled. Master, what do you mean? Throwing stones to test the waters. Aren't we that stone? Then what should we do? Should we take advantage of the night and run away? Xiaohe asked, feeling relieved. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Since he dared to tell us this news today, it means that he's certain that we won't be able to escape today. Tonight, I'm afraid that many people will be watching us. Even those fellows who want us to leave the team will be watching us. Because if we run away, the stone might be someone else's tomorrow. Gong Jun, do you know where the tunnel they're talking about is? Di Baichen asked. Gong Jun looked ashamed. Boss, I've always been focusing on business. I didn't plan to participate in this monster slaying competition at all. Even if I did ask around before coming here, I still don't know much about the situation here. If I had known, I would have asked around before coming here. These fellows should have participated in several competitions, so they know much more about the terrain here than we do. From the beginning, they've already had the upper hand. Di Baichen frowned slightly. They hadn't paid much attention to this at first, but now that he thought about it, they had been too naive. Being familiar with the terrain was already an irreversible advantage for many people. If that's the case, we'll have to be extremely careful when we enter the tunnel tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression darkened. She suddenly looked at the man beside her and said, Baichen, what exactly are you planning? We're probably thinking of the same thing. Snatch their points? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. A hint of excitement appeared in her eyes. Di Beichen nodded slightly. Great minds think alike. Gong Jun's face also showed surprise. I think so too. If we can get their points, our points will definitely surpass many people. Therefore, the tunnel tomorrow is also a great opportunity for us. Since they value this place so much, the number of monsters must not be simple. This also means that the points will be very shocking. Di Beichen's eyes were deep. Even if they wanted to leave, they would have to wait until they came out of the tunnel. With so many points, how could they not collect them? Right at this time, Gong Jun slapped his forehead and said, I suddenly forgot something. What have you forgotten? Before I set off, my good friend gave me a book, saying that it would be useful after entering the demon slaughtering mountain range. I actually forgot about it. Although he's usually not very serious, he's very reliable when it comes to this kind of thing. Maybe there's a record in this book. Gong Jun took out a booklet and handed it to Di Beichen. After Di Beichen took it and opened it, his eyes suddenly lit up. The topography of the demon slaughtering mountain range was drawn on it. In addition, it also marked which places had many monsters and which were very dangerous. It even recorded some secret paths. Chapter 65-49. Di Beichen thought about the route they had taken in the past 2 days, and the scene in the book was very similar. He suddenly sighed in his heart. If everything drawn in the book was true, then it would really be an amazing map. Beichen, what's wrong with you? It was rare to see such a strange expression on Beichen's face. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask, is this book helpful? Gong Jun also looked nervous. They could only rely on this booklet. If this booklet couldn't help, then they really had no other way. This booklet will be of great help to us. Di Beichen's lips slowly curled into a smile. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun looked at each other. Both of their faces showed great joy. Really? Gong Jun looked excited. I knew this guy was very reliable at this time. He always pays attention to the matters of the demon slaughtering mountains. This time he didn't cheat me. Gong Jun, is this friend of yours the one we went to buy the booklet from? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Gong Jun nodded. Yes, it's him. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. Previously, when Gong Jun praised this person so much, she had some doubts. Now it seemed that this person's means were really not simple. Did he sell this booklet to anyone else? If everything recorded in this booklet was true, it meant that the content would be of great help to everyone. Once everyone knew the content, then this advantage would no longer be an advantage. Hearing this, Gong Jun shook his head. Madam, don't worry. I can guarantee that he has never sold this booklet to anyone else, nor has he shown it to anyone else. That guy has swindled a lot of things from me. If it wasn't for our past friendship, I would have ignored him long ago. Now, it seems that this guy still has some conscience. He gave this to me to save my life. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Such a booklet would be of great help in the demon slaughtering mountains. The fact that the other party was willing to give it to Gong Jun already proved the depth of their relationship. Later, when everyone is resting, I will take a closer look at the location they mentioned and think of a solution. Di Beichen put away the booklet. Now that everyone was gathered together, if he suddenly took something out, it would inevitably attract attention. At night, after everyone had started to rest, Di Beichen took out the book. However, what he took out was an introduction to monsters that everyone could easily buy. He placed the booklet inside the book. Everyone lost interest just by looking at the familiar cover. They didn't even plan to look at it. These guys really just came to Xi'an City. They don't even know the species of monsters and are still reading. Could it be that they are preparing for tomorrow's exploration? Let them read it. Even if they read this book, it's useless. Isn't this what you want? You don't like them anyway. Forget it, forget it. There's really no need to pay attention to people who are about to die. Everyone waved their hands, obviously losing interest in the three of them. Chapter 65-50. Captain, why did you recruit the three of them in the first place? There's nothing special about them and they have nothing to do with you. The man looked at the captain suspiciously. This question had been in his heart for a long time. Tonight he couldn't help but ask. The captain turned to look at the man and a sneer appeared in his eyes. There's nothing special about the three of them. But they are very useful to me. Please enlighten me. You should know that we work for Master Bai. It's the same every year. So you're saying that it was Master Bai's idea to recruit them? But does Master Bai want to protect them or torture them? If he wants to torture them, then these 2 days have been too much for them. If he wants to protect them, then tomorrow. Of course it's to deal with them. The captain chuckled. You know Master Bai's personality very well. He just doesn't want them to die too easily. Our goal is to lie to them and torture them. Then we'll tell them the truth before they die. In short, we'll do whatever Master Bai wants us to do. Understand? Captain, I understand. The man let out a sigh of relief and smiled. Because of the 3 of them, he had been in a terrible mood for the past 2 days. Now that he understood everything, he could finally relax. It's good that you understand. The captain nodded. For the past 2 years, our performance has not satisfied Master Bai. This time, no matter what, we have to succeed. We can't afford to make any more mistakes. Hearing this, the man sighed. The number of points needed to get first place is just too much. How powerful is Bai Qingli? Every time in the tournament, the number of beasts he slew is shocking. Our master may be very powerful, but compared to Bai Qingli, how dare you talk about our master like that? Are you tired of living? Captain, I wouldn't dare. I understand where you're coming from. Last year, Master Bai was 2nd place. He's not far from 1st place. Our team has expanded. Who knows, we might be able to succeed today. Once we succeed, we'll be rewarded. Don't think about anything else. Just do your job. Yes. While the 2 of them were chatting happily, they did not notice that there was a nimble ball in the darkness. After listening to everything, it quietly disappeared into the darkness. Di Baichen looked at the situation depicted on the map while carefully observing the annotations at the back. He suddenly had some understanding of the tunnel tomorrow. According to the book, this tunnel is indeed a good place. Most of the creatures seen in other places were monsters, but there were some extremely rare spiritual herbs in the tunnel. These spirit herbs and monsters should have come from the same place. Previously, we thought that these monsters should have come from another plane, and these spirit herbs should have come from that plane. Someone once obtained the spirit grass here, and after taking it out, he auctioned it off for an extremely high price. That's right. Gong Jun's interest was piqued when he heard this. I've also heard about this matter. It said that this demonic spiritual grass attracted a lot of attention. Chapter 65-51. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally only interested in the Fey crystal, but after hearing that there was a Fey spirit herb, she became even more interested. These spirit herbs should all lead to the same destination. The Fey spirit herb should be able to work together with other spirit herbs to produce different effects. Every stalk of spirit grass often had a very special effect, and this kind of spirit grass that had never been seen before might even be a treasure. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expectant look, Di Baichen's eyes revealed a trace of affection. Don't worry, you will definitely encounter it tomorrow. When the time comes, if our plan is implemented, we will have to snatch all these Fey spirit herbs back. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. She didn't care about anything else but these Fey spirit herbs. She was very interested in them. When they returned to the Forsaken Immortal Forest, they would give these Fey spirit herbs as gifts. Granny Hua would definitely like them. Gong Jun also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and immediately understood. If he wanted to please Madame in the future, he would have to start with herbs. The situation we will enter tomorrow is indeed a little dangerous, but, just as Di Baichen and company were discussing tomorrow's operation, Xiao Bai had unknowingly climbed onto Di Baichen's shoulder. Did you hear anything? Master, your guess is right. This matter is indeed related to Bai Luchuan. Xiao Bai slowly recounted everything she had heard. After hearing all this, Di Baichen's expression became unfathomable. Baichen, did Xiao Bai hear something? Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on Xiao Bai. Previously, after seeing the captain leave with another person, they had sent Xiao Bai to follow them. Clearly she was here to report the news. So these people are all Bai Luchuan's men. The one who faked the score is also Bai Luchuan. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly taken aback. Bai Luchuan has been faking it? But I didn't see his name on the previous list. In the past, there's usually only the first name on the list. The names behind are unknown to everyone. I believe Bai Luchuan's name should be quite close to the front, Di Baichen said slowly. Gong Jun's face was full of disdain. With so many people helping him cheat, if his ranking is still so low, then wouldn't he be no different from a cripple? Gong Jun, in your opinion, is Bai Luchuan and Bai Qingli on good terms? Boss, why do you say that? Gong Jun was somewhat puzzled. According to what I know, Bai Luchuan and Bai Qingli are cousins. The two of them have been on good terms since they were young. Bai Luchuan often went in and out of City Lord Manor. He looked like a young master of City Lord Manor. However, because Bai Qingli is immersed in martial arts, she doesn't come out often. Although there are many rumors, I don't know how true they are. From the looks of it, their relationship isn't very good. At the very least, Bai Luchuan has other ideas behind his back. Di Beichen's eyes were warm. From everything Bai Luchuan had done, he could tell that this fellow was definitely not a good person. Could it be that Bai Luchuan wants to harm Bai Qingli? Gong Jun's eyes widened as a look of shock appeared on his face. City Lord only has one son, Bai Qingli. If he dies, Bai Luchuan might really take advantage of him. Chapter 65-52. Bai Luchuan tried every means to obtain first place? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. In that case, these people are Bai Luchuan's men and not Bai Qingli's men? Di Beichen nodded. Bai Luchuan has had this idea for a few years, but he hasn't succeeded. This Bai Qingli treats him so well, but he's still thinking of ways to do such things behind her back. That's interesting. There was a hint of mockery in her cold voice. This was like a farmer and a snake. No one knew what kind of ideas the good brother you had always thought of behind your back. Bai Luchuan is also a very famous young master in Xi'an City. However, once he meets Bai Qingli, everyone believes from the bottom of their hearts that the two of them aren't on the same level. I think he must have been suppressed for too long and is unwilling to submit to others. Gong Jun blinked his shrewd eyes, looking as though he had already seen through it. Although I've never seen this Bai Qingli before, I can tell from your description that she's definitely not on the same level as Bai Luchuan. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. She had a good impression of a martial arts fanatic because such people tended to have simple thoughts. They were obsessed with martial arts and didn't have many twists and turns. In comparison, Bai Luchuan clearly put more thought into other aspects. His cultivation level naturally couldn't compare to Bai Qingli's, so he could only use other means. Has Bai Qingli improved a lot in the past 2 years? Di Beichen suddenly asked. Upon hearing that, Gong Jun nodded and asked in puzzlement, "Boss, how did you know?" He hadn't mentioned anything about this before. Bai Luchuan's various methods might have increased his cultivation level. The corners of Di Beichen's lips curled into a faint smile. His deep eyes were like a vast ocean, rippling with a mysterious luster. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up as she immediately understood. In the past 2 years, Bai Luchuan's points have been constantly increasing. Bai Qingli felt the pressure, so she worked even harder in her cultivation. Instead, her strength improved even faster. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a smile. For a martial arts fanatic like him, he would never have thought that others would try to play tricks on him, let alone his own cousin. I didn't expect there to be such benefits to having a pure mind. Gong Jun was dumbfounded. This kind of thinking was indeed not something an ordinary person could have. Since you already know, let's rest. We'll act according to the situation tomorrow. Di Beichen put away the booklet. Originally, he was extremely worried about tomorrow, but after understanding the situation, this worry was obviously reduced by a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Jun slowly closed their eyes and began to take a nap. There were still many people in the surroundings who were worried that Di Beichen's trio would take advantage of the night to run away. However, they never thought that these three would actually be so careless. From the beginning to the end, they didn't have the slightest intention of running away. Instead, they had worried for nothing. The next day, the sun dispelled the misty fog and everyone set off early in the morning. On this day, the three of them clearly felt that everyone was targeting them less. There were no more sour words and it was much quieter. It wasn't until noon that everyone stopped in front of an area. Chapter 65-53. We have arrived at the tunnel. Zhong Yiluan turned around and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. He said, "This is the tunnel we are going to. There are many monsters and some precious demonic spirit herbs in this tunnel. Every year there will be some changes. You guys go in and explore. If there is no problem, let us know. We will go in immediately." Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two didn't answer. They just looked at him quietly. Facing the slightly suspicious gazes of the three, Zhong Yiluan awkwardly coughed twice and said, "Don't worry, all of us will follow behind you not far away." If there is any danger, as long as you shout, we will immediately appear. You don't believe what Captain said? This is a chance for you to gain experience. If you rely on us to protect you, how can you improve? Another man stood up and said. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the man blandly. This is the guy who always has a problem with us. If there is a chance, we will teach him a lesson. Let's go. The three of them walked out from the crowd with weapons in their hands. They slowly walked towards the tunnel. Zhong Yiluan felt relieved when he saw the three of them getting ready to go in. According to the experience of the past 2 years, there were 2 extremely powerful man-eating beasts in the tunnel. The fighting power of the man-eating beast was shocking. Normally, the demon slaughtering mountain was completely occupied by monsters. Therefore, it was rare for human cultivators or demonic beasts to show up here. That was why the man-eating beasts were always hungry. When they were hungry, the man-eating beasts would be extremely powerful. Even the three of them wouldn't be able to defeat them. However, if they were full, their combat power would be much weaker. They couldn't kill the man-eating beasts, but it was possible for them to go through. Now that they understood the rules, they were still a little confused about how to solve this problem. Now, the appearance of these 3 fellows had obviously solved their urgent problem. Master Bai was planning to teach these 3 a lesson. If they were eaten by the man-eating beast, it would be a painful death, and Master Bai would be satisfied with it. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 slowly walked into the tunnel, Zhong Yiluan slowly turned his gaze to the back. He knew that Master Bai was not far away from them. He knew that Master Bai was there. Luchuan, it is said that there are many monsters and treasures in this tunnel. Are we not going? Guan Yi looked at the large group of people in front of him with a complicated look in his eyes. In this demon slaughter mountain range, there were a few places with many opportunities. Originally, he wanted to explore this tunnel. If he could harvest some never-before-seen demon spirit grass or other treasures here, his uncle would definitely be able to auction it off for a satisfactory price after bringing it back. Previously, because of him, his uncle had suffered a great loss and he was also feeling very bad. This place is quite dangerous. Since so many people are willing to risk their lives for me, why should we go in by ourselves? A sneer appeared on Bai Liuchuan's face. Do you know the number of cultivators who died here 2 years ago? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.